into the room. We're going to open this session with our first discussion topic. This is item 2A. Discussion on performing a sports venue study for the West Jordan Rodeo Arena. Presenting this will be Corbin Lee. And I will start just because I know this is being recorded and apologize to Mr. Lee that I did not fill out the stuff I was supposed to, even though I thought about it many, many, many times. So if Mr. Lee is ready, then we can begin.
We're busy.
I know. That was me politely saying, stop talking to Mr. Lee.
Okay,
You get one polite one.
I get one plate with?
Yeah.
You want these in for that?
It's been a few months now, council. A few months ago, we had a conversation in here about wanting to do more with the rodeo arena. And yet we struggled to define what it was we wanted to do more with the rodeo arena. We knew we wanted to do something. We were willing to put some money towards studying it. We know we want to do something better than what it is. And my takeaway was go figure out how much it's going to cost, come back and ask for an appropriation so we can put some money aside to do a good study and figure out what to do next for the rodeo arena. I contacted a half dozen rodeo and sports venue and entertainment consultants. And I actually got more consensus around the pricing than I thought I would. Most of them were in the $40,000 to $70,000 range. $50,000 to $60,000 was about the expected cost of a study. But the full range was $40,000 to $100,000 plus for the cost of a study. But every single consultant said, well, of course, the study is going to, the cost of the study is going to depend on what it is you want us to study. What do you want to do? And then we engaged in this conversation about sports venues, sports venue marketing, competitive landscape analysis, architectural site plan analysis and renderings, economic impact. Do you want the study to engage stakeholders, to engage the community, and so on? I don't know the answer to any of those questions. So that's what I want to pose to you as a council tonight and talk about this so that as we write the request for proposals to complete this study, we know what the scope of our study looks like. So in an email sent back on March 13th, I sent you a list of about 8 questions of what do you want this study for the sports venue consultant to look like. I want to read these questions to you and discuss with you as a council body whether you want the study to include this part of the analysis or not. First questions are competitive landscape analysis. Do you want to have the consulting team look holistically at the sports and entertainment venue competitive landscape in Salt Lake County? And that's kind of part and parcel with the second question, which is, do you want to consider a sports and entertainment venue at this site that's not rodeo? In other words, is it more important that we maintain the history and tradition of rodeo at the site, regardless of return on investment for the venue? Or is it more important that we get the best ROI on the site and the land and more frequent uses of the site, even if it means creating a sports and entertainment venue that's not rodeo?
I think it has to stay rodeo.
Those are the two sides of the same coin, right?
Well, for example, if the consultants come back and say, rodeos, you're only gonna get 5 uses a year.
Yeah, but build
But build an amphitheater and you'll get 15 uses a year. Is the study, this is first and foremost a rodeo arena. Now, how do we keep it a rodeo arena and yet get more use? Or this is wide open. this is wide open, we just want more people coming to West Jordan and spending their discretionary dollar in West Jordan.
Make a pretty good case for both answers on that. I think preserving the rodeo would probably be important to a lot of people. Preserving a place to have the rodeo. I think if we opened it up to non-rodeo compatible venues, then you're gonna get a lot of upset people because you won't have a place to have a rodeo anymore. We won't have a rodeo anymore. Well, yeah, we might have other stuff, but we won't have a rodeo. And a lot of people really like the rodeo. So if that's, I think taking rodeo out of the equation is probably, in my opinion, a bad choice. But a venue that could do rodeo and other things, that's like something outside the box, might be something worth looking at.
So I remember back to my days of being a child. Does anybody remember the big yellow drum in downtown, the old Salt Palace? That's where they held the Days of 47 rodeo. Now, granted, I'm not looking for an indoor arena, but if there's something that we could do similar to that, I mean, they held the rodeo there and they took it in and they took it out, and just like us, our rodeos used 3 days a year and then maybe twice for different.
They do monster trucks at the Delta Center.
So maybe we look at a venue that is similar to what the Salt Palace was, minus maybe a roof, or maybe we have some kind of roof. But yeah, I am up for looking at saying, like he said, rodeo first, but then how can we take that venue and make it similar to what the Salt Palace used to be? I'm not looking for a Delta Center.
I don't think we ever, if we did, I don't think we meant to convey that we didn't want the rodeo. I think we always were conveying,
No,
we
that's
want
not
the
what you're saying.
rodeo, but we want to explore in addition what can occur there that will bring in funds.
I'm sure this other option came from the people who wanted the reports, 'cause that's
They
a more
do.
expensive report.
Well, yeah, no one conveyed to me no rodeo. I just wanna make really clear, because to be honest, on the surface, most of them before we talked, looked at, okay, rodeo in West Jordan, what are the other rodeo venues, how often are they used? And immediately saw, there's probably more rodeo venues in this area than there are ways to make money off of all those rodeo venues.
Yeah, you're in Utah.
Yeah.
You're not in New
So
York.
that's why this is the first question.
I think something we run up against though is, it seems like an easy thing would be, you can get a stage that you can bring in, put it up, put chairs on the thing, and suddenly you've got a concert venue. But then I look at the location of that and realize that anytime there's a rodeo, I hear, if I'm not in the rodeo, now that I'm here, I'm in the rodeo, but I used to be able to just hear the entire rodeo from my house a quarter mile away. And so if we had a concert venue, that's gonna be all anyone within a probably half-mile radius is going to hear is this concert. And whereas that would be an easy secondary use of it, that might be something that's now problematic. Or where a rodeo, people can understand, all right, the rodeo's in town, and then there's that, and then there's the Mexican rodeo, and I know we're gonna get that. But, all right, those will be done and quiet by 10 o'clock and I can move on. So we have to look at, I would love to see more uses. But then we have to look at, is this the location for something like that, that has multiple uses? Or I don't know, there's a way to wonder if the idea is to find a new location for the rodeo and build the grounds down there and eventually look at what we're doing in this spot, might be something to think about.
What I'm hearing, I haven't heard from Jessica, I haven't heard from you. What I'm hearing is doing away with the rodeo and letting other communities provide rodeo entertainment is not an option. We have a history and a tradition of rodeo, and other uses are okay, but not at the expense of the rodeo. And if that's the case, we already have a rodeo arena at this site, why relocate it? Why spend the money
I
relocating?
think I just saw an article about Grantsville that they had theirs for 10 years and they're bringing theirs back.
Yeah.
So, obviously Grantsville's a little bit smaller, but still, they had that history and it went away and now they want it back. And I think if we got rid of the rodeo, it'd probably feel the same way for, not everybody. I mean, I know when this venue moved from the one place to the other, it wasn't very far, there were people like, why keep the rodeo? There were, but there just wasn't a loud portion of people that didn't want it.
Well, back to having other events there outside of the rodeo. Well, Sandy does it, amphitheaters by a residential area, and then also USANA is, well, Utah First Credit Union, whatever. It's too long now, that it's by the neighborhood. And I guess like this, it's a little more like condensed, but I mean, definitely there would be a noise ordinance as long as it's done by like 10, because that's curfew. So, but I can hear it where I live, but it doesn't bother me. But I can't speak for everyone.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking, it doesn't really bother me when it's just those, but it's because I only know it's those,
Yeah, those days. No, I didn't mean that. I'm saying,
Yeah.
talking about other residents too.
We did have complaints during the Mexican rodeos, those were really loud.
yeah,
They were like
they're
all
louder.
day long with lots of beats and music the whole time.
I think,
I mean, personally, I would love to see it be sort of a concert venue kind of thing, and I wouldn't worry about it being with me, but I don't know what the other residents might be like.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, like big name things, just, more use than the rodeo.
But not at the expense of the rodeo.
Correct. Right.
Okay, that's,
as much as I'd be okay not having a rodeo, because I'm not a rodeo fan, I know the people, every time I've ever said that, people like throw things at me, so
And it sells out.
maybe metaphorically, maybe literally.
I'd be happy if the rodeo was just mutton busting. That was, watch that for 2 hours and
That's
went
the
home.
best part.
I'd be very happy,
And somebody with a stopwatch, so the points aren't just made up.
but I don't mind the made-up points.
74 points.
I would
Oh,
like to
crap,
look
that guy's
at,
better.
uh,
75
So I think the main study would have to be in that, what do we do? Is it something where we have to lay in, I'm assuming that it's just nothing but dirt all the way down, that there was never a concrete floor put in.
A little metal here and there they find.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're gonna do that anywhere, but that would
Um,
probably need to be something that would happen if we're gonna do a multi-venue unless we, cause I know one time Sugar Factory Playhouse did South Pacific on the rodeo grounds. And it became a little weird because actors are now trying to perform and a windstorm comes up and there's just sand blowing everywhere. And it was not a good theatrical experience. And actors tried to do a good job of working that into the show of what happens here in the South Pacific Islands. But, so I think we would have to look at something, what it would cost to put in a floor all the way. Then it's dirt that's brought in. Maybe it's something where we can keep that dirt somewhere and maintain the dirt. I don't know quite how they do all that.
okay.
Question 1.
Questions 1 and 2 down. All right. My next third question about site plan, architectural versus cost revenue. Are you picturing this in your minds? Are you picturing this more as a study about cost revenue analysis and market and technical feasibility, or architectural design and site plan?
Or both.
For me, I think it's a little of both. It's, if we're gonna do something different, then we're gonna need to know what architectural needs to be changed. Like I said, do we need to put in a concrete floor? Or do we need to do something to put a little bit of a heat break, not a full roof, but
Shades.
some shade over? Do we need to do these things?
I'd wanna see different scenarios of like physical building changes, like construction changes, and then what the
Cost
like
benefit
finance, the cost benefit analysis of different scenarios. Kind of low, medium, high.
Must have wider aisles for seating and chairbacks.
Well, see, that's
So
what
those
I was-
are all architectural, so like I think I've heard 4 of you now say it, like the art, it depends on who we're hiring. Are we hiring a sports venue consultant that's experts on markets and the team needs to include architects? It sounds like the answer is yes. We want some building analysis, some cost of construction analysis, widen aisles, cost to put in a concrete floor,
Yeah, if that requires an
possible
architect, then it
renderings.
is.
I think it kind of goes without saying, if a sports place is gonna tell us, the market will handle this, whether it's concerts, whether it's
6,000
other
seat
sports or whatever, then we're gonna need other people to tell us what we have to change within it to make those things viable.
I think part of the question is, is the goal to improve the rodeo arena, to make it a better experience for the rodeo? Right, seat backs, wider aisles, more seating, more comfortable seating,
Corporate seating.
a little more legroom, nicer press box, corporate seating, something,
You don't like our corporate seating right now?
shade.
The biggest
So
problem,
lovely.
the biggest problem is always the sun, number one, and then number two, those aren't, you can't see the rodeo that good unless you're in that front row.
Get yourself back.
But you get to be by the horses.
But if that's right, and the smells. So is the question, do we wanna make the rodeo experience better? Or is the question, do we want, or is it bigger than that? Cause if that's all it is, I think we'd save a lot of money with this study. We could throw some ideas together and go,
Probably don't need a study if
Yeah.
that's the only.
we can talk about seats and concrete and shade with Corey, and he can get us some bids and put it together without a.
Can I speak to that one? Whenever-
I did say your name, so I guess you're allowed to respond.
Well, the issue I
How do you,
found.
how do you know it was you?
to get
You remind
new
me of another
seat-
Corey.
To get new seats or bleacher, I've called, that requires new grandstands. New
Right.
grandstands requires changing the footprint, which then adds a cost of new footings, new drainage to get around. And so it's not as simple as just putting the grandstands, cause so that's where the cost, and there's utilities and.
Now look at that, we didn't
So
even need
it's
to spend
tricky to,
$50,000
it's
on a
not as
study.
easy just to say, hey, go put a new bleacher. As I've called and had people come out and look, and our own engineer said, if we're to increase the grandstands, that's changing the footprint. We're no longer, we have to add footings and then drainage for all these and, so it becomes.
But did they give you a price with all that?
Just for adding new seating without grandstand, new seats, well, not bleachers, I asked for chairs, was 1.5 million, just for chairs.
And he said
But that
that's
was with the
$50,000
same
on a
capacity,
study,
but they
so-
still said you need to change some grandstand. But then the grandstand company, you have to change a lot. So it's kind of a domino effect. Even with the concrete, we looked into it, it requires different drainage system, and just the cost then. And I can't tell all of those, I don't know every domino afterwards. So that's where I would recommend a study on.
It sounds like though, Kayleen, and I haven't heard from the two of you on this issue, but what I'm hearing is architecture, an architect expert is part and parcel with the study to answer some of these kinds of questions.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I just don't want somebody coming back with, here's a $20 million building that you know, put up. Kind of a thing, right? We don't need another.
If an architect is required to say like, here's how much it would cost to add a bigger footprint or whatever, then yeah.
It would be, the architect would do, architecture, land use analysis, rendering, cost construction, those kinds of things. The sports venue consultants would say, okay, that's a $4 million, $6 million price tag, and you can use it in these 6 ways. Here's the potential cost and revenue of hosting a concert at that kind of venue. Here's the competitive market analysis of that kind of venue size, how many other concert venues do that, whether a production company would want to use that type of venue for concerts. So that the two different areas of expertise go hand in hand, I think.
I could be wrong, because I would think that most people looking at that right now, any of these sports people would look at our venue and say, that's almost rodeo.
Currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently it is. Well, monster trucks.
Yeah.
and
Demolition derby.
We get the
Demolition
demolition
derby.
derby and stuff, but
Those are just automated rodeos,
Will they,
mechanical rodeos.
I mean, we're talking concerts, but, and it's not Pinewood Derby, but those girls that came in and wanted a derby site, what is that kind of derby called? Roller derby, thank you.
oh yeah.
Like, will they bring us in ideas like that? I mean, Cause I think there's a
There
lot of
probably would be
uses
some.
that could be used for with concrete
Yeah.
laid the right way, other than concerts.
Could have a hell of a Pinewood Derby.
Yeah.
And I don't know of a roller derby.
You start with the
I'm
track
not
at one
really
end
into it,
and
but I know that when those women came, they were really into it.
Yeah.
I think that they just closed the Salt Lake roller derby.
Did they?
Yeah.
Used to be really popular.
And you know, we can always put pickleball courts there, cause those are needed everywhere.
Well, that can be painted on, that can be painted
hear
on the
that, Greg?
concrete, then when you bring it in.
Exactly.
We have had, just as staff, I wanna give kudos to Corey's team. They have been brainstorming very creative ways to get more use out of that venue and have come up with some really interesting ideas. But we want consultants to hopefully bring us a national perspective on those kinds of creative ideas as well.
I still like disco soccer.
Do you want the consulting team that we hire to complete an economic impact analysis?
Yes.
Do you care about the economic impact on this, or do you care about, first and foremost, we're trying to create community. We're not really doing this for economic impact, we're doing this for community creation.
The only economic impact I see is just, are we covering costs? I don't think we're doing it to make thousands, hundreds of dollars.
But I think we need the economic impact study to know if you're covering costs, or to know if there's profits to be made, or to know if it's gonna be a drain on the system.
I think if we say no, we'll regret it, because we'll get the results and then we won't know how to decide on the next.
Do you want like I think I heard as well, but this is the next question. Do you want the consultants to create a pro forma, like a business plan, a pro forma business analysis as well, right? That's more to your point. Economic impact is you bring in an event that has 1,000 people come, they each spend $100, the multiplier effect of those dollars spent in West Jordan creates $1 million of economic impact in the hotels and restaurants and gas stations. That's economic impact, why people say the Olympics are gonna generate billions in economic impact. It's the spillover spending and the multiplier effect in the local economy. The pro forma analysis is more what Chad mentioned of, I wanna know, if we're doing an event, is that event gonna pay for itself? Is it gonna have to be subsidized directly? Is it gonna be able to make money or lose money? That's more the pro forma business analysis, the direct cost, direct benefit issue. It sounds like the answer is both.
Might be more interested in the second, actually, when you lay it out like that. It feels a little bit more tangible.
But they're both valid.
I'm most interested in the pro forma.
Yeah, that's what I meant, that's the second one, right? Yeah. I think more general economic analysis is a little maybe fluffy.
I think it's farther than we need to go as a city. Like, I think it's on a state level and for them to,
It's-
for us. I just have too many relatives that come to our soccer complex and spend nothing in the city. So,
Economic impact analysis works, in this area, it works well on a county level and above, right? County
Yeah.
level, state level. Our boundaries when it comes to spending are too porous, right? It's too easy to cross a city line and spend $1. For economic impact analysis to work really, really well on a West Jordan centric type of study. Okay. Do you want to involve the public in the study? Do you want to survey the community and ask what they want to see at the site? Do you want to ask them what level of taxpayer support is appropriate for the site?
would we be doing a separate study or adding it to our yearly study?
I would propose, if I may jump in, we're meeting with Y2 for the community-wide survey, and we have some trend questions. They're actually gonna come at the next work session and talk about what kind of questions you wanna have, so I think it'll dovetail in with what we already have planned.
I would love to add some questions to that, but as far as the second one, separate one, it's tricky, right? Because what if it is one of those things where it's just our core rodeo folks? It's kind of like the rec center for the west side, right? When we put it on the ballot, the residents said no, but what do we hear all the time? When is our rec center coming on the west side?
Yeah, the problem with that is this side voted no and that side voted yes.
Yeah, and
And it wasn't really a vote on the rec center, it was a vote on, here's a big old bond,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know?
but that's
Use that
that's
for
the
rec
hard part. I don't ever want to ask residents specific questions that we may not like their answer and use it. I think that's the worst thing you can do. So,
Every good lawyer knows, right? Don't ask a question you don't know the answer to.
so I think putting it in the regular survey, getting an idea would be excellent. But as far as doing a separate survey, I'm not interested in that expenditure. Never ask
But
a
if it's
kid
part
if
of the
they want an
study.
ice cream cone if you don't wanna give them one.
Well, that's one of the questions, I guess, is if we put it in the RFP as a required scope of the study, then they bring on a market research team with their consultants that adds to the cost of the study to get that. If we do it as part of our Y2 survey, as part of our annual citizen survey, we'll get a sense of how our residents feel. We might not ask exactly the questions the consultants would want us to be asking, you know, because they might draw further insights if we had asked the questions differently or so on.
Well, yeah,
But there's
and if
also
you
a-
pay me to do the study, I'm happier than if you have that guy do the
Yeah.
study and my questions, of course, would be superior.
Well, there's also a challenge of, like you mentioned, do you really want to know the answers, right? Are we comfortable asking West Jordan residents, are you comfortable with your tax dollars subsidizing the rodeo arena? Do we want to ask that
Already
question or
does.
not? I
They
don't
already do.
know. We already do. It's
Yeah.
part of who we are as a community, and we've discerned it's part of who we are as a community, but if they come back and say, no, we don't want our tax dollars spent that way, then are we heading down a path that our residents then come back and say, we told you we didn't want to head down that path?
But I think we could look at, we are looking to make improvements to the rodeo grounds. Here are some suggestions. What would you find most?
Yeah.
That way, we've already let them know it's coming. You can tell us which ideas you'd like us to hit.
Kind of what level they want us to invest in the rodeo grounds.
Right.
This is why I don't trust survey reports. It's all in how you ask the
Yep,
question.
it's always that, always been that way. But we can get a little bit of an idea.
Political polls. 80% of Americans support this. Yeah, sure they do. Let me see the question.
So I think that could be certainly help, but I think we agree that we'd like the survey to be just part of the main.
Part of the citizen survey that we're already doing, we'll ask our own questions. We'll share those questions and responses with the consultants.
Because I think the consultants have an idea of what's going on around us and what could be done without having to spend money to ask the same questions.
Do we do that annually? I'm so sorry, Peely, to talk over you. Good to know.
No, just once a year.
Haha.
Take me a second.
Any other thoughts on that part of that issue about surveying residents?
No.
Jessica, Annette, Chad, any other thoughts on that?
No, I'd prefer it with the regular survey.
How much do you want to involve the users of the facility, the users of the venue in the study? Do you wanna ask for, I'm just gonna say it. Do you wanna ask the rodeo committee how the venue can be made better? Knowing if you ask the rodeo committee how the venue can be made better, you're gonna get a really great wish list of rodeo wants from the rodeo committee. And perhaps maybe some unrealistic expectations. But you also may get good insights from those that are actually in the chutes, opening up the chutes and working the rodeo when it actually happens. It's a little bit of a two-edged sword, but if we want the consultants to do focus groups as part of the study, we need to spell it out in the initial scope.
I don't think there's a problem with that. I think if they know that we're not saying all this is gonna happen, but if you had a wish list, what are the top things you would want improved? And, maybe even making it's not if money is no object, it is what would make this better, safer, whatever.
And I like the safer, because there could be things that
Yeah, they might.
we can easily do when we start investing in that area that will make it safer.
Or call
that-
rules.
That they know that maybe we don't, and maybe not even the consultant will know.
But so that, I think we would get good insight, but I think we have to make it very clear that we're not asking you what you want us to start working on today.
Well, they would be the experts.
Yeah. You always get good stuff from experts.
But then there is, I think tonight, anyway, there is a group that wants to, it's tonight in business meeting, that wants to use it, they use it weekly. Of course, they're going to have a different outlook. So, I think when you look at the three groups that use it, the youth group, us for our rodeo, and then the Latin rodeo, I think you're gonna get three different perspectives if you ask those three groups. Cause if I'm the organizers of the youth group, I'm not gonna want you using that rodeo facility for anything but rodeo, cause then I might not have a practice arena anymore. And our fee might go up for the other rodeo group, so I think asking our rodeo committee is a good idea, but if you're gonna ask all the other groups, I think there could be some complications with that.
Well, this goes back to the original question, right? Are we looking to make the rodeo experience better? Because that's what the rodeo committee will have insight on, right? The rodeo experience, the complaints they get, the feedback from people who were there, their experience there. They're not there for what doesn't exist yet, right? They're not there for the concerts that aren't happening, or for the Pinewood Derby, or whatever, whatever it is. It's gonna be my new Ferris wheel, by the way. I'm gonna just start talking Pinewood Derby.
Gotta have.
They're not there for all the other things that could be happening there, so they're not gonna have input more than any other citizen, right? On what it could be, or what it should be, or what it could become, beyond how to make the rodeo the best it can be. And just keeping in mind, if that's the set of answers that you're gonna get from that question to that group, then okay, ask them, let's see what we can make it, see what we can do and make the rodeo the best it can be. But if we're looking for broader answers on broader topics, just know that's not gonna come from that group.
So for example, what I'm hearing is yes on focus groups, that ought to be part of the study.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure on the rodeo committee, probably on the other users as well, but we recognize there might be some competing interests. Zach, I think you're making the argument that we should probably include in at least one of our focus groups potential future users of the venue other than rodeo. Like if we want to use it for concerts, we ought to get Live Nation in here to say, what does it take to make this a viable concert venue for productions or something like
That
that.
who does that, yeah.
Uh,
I don't know.
We might also want to ask, I know that the company that is hired to do whatever they do, take tickets and all of those things, show people to their seats. some of them have some real thoughts on
Yeah.
how we could improve, as well as some of the food trucks and stuff, the people that come for that. They all have some pretty strong opinions at times that they are willing to share.
I have a few questions, and this is mostly because since I'm not really familiar with the arena outside of the rodeo. You mentioned it, because it is used outside of that for their practices. Is it used year round, or is it really only specifically used for the rodeo?
Pretty much summer venue.
And as old as it is, right now, is it really just like maintenance and things like that too, like the money that's going into it?
I apologize, I should have given you a little bit more of a primer.
Oh, you're right.
There is no outstanding debt on the venue. The cost of the venue itself is just the maintenance of the venue. But rodeo venues are a little bit high maintenance. We spend quite a bit of time getting it ready for the rodeo and for the demolition derby and so on. Right in the last fiscal year, we had 4 event nights where the stands were filled or mostly filled. 3 of those were the Western Stampede Rodeo, 1 was the demolition derby. In the year prior, we had in addition to that the monster truck night. We canceled monster truck night because it was being subsidized by the city. It was costing more than it was bringing in. In years prior to that, even there may have been 1 or 2 nights of Mexican rodeo. So in my time here, the most event nights that have been in the rodeo arena, I believe, are probably 7 or 8. 2 or 3 Mexican rodeos, 3 Western Stampede, monster truck, demolition derby. That'd be about 8. In addition to
Remember, the
that,
Mexican rodeos kind of went away because of noise issues.
no, the biggest reason the Mexican rodeo went away is because of, frankly, the concert promoter, the event promoter wouldn't abide by the alcohol laws.
I'd heard
They weren't,
I heard the sound issue was a thing too, like they didn't want to turn their sound off.
it was always a challenge, but that was not the nail in the coffin. The nail in the coffin was serving alcohol to minors. And,
That's a big nail.
and then a lot of other issues related to the sale of alcohol. In addition to between 4 and 8 event nights per year, there's a lot of uses of the venue that I would call sub-event uses, like you just approved a fee, or on tonight, I think, is a fee waiver for use of the arena for a practice group, right? They'll come in and use it, but it's not filling it with stands. It's not filling the stands with people.
It's being used like a park.
The Jordan Education Foundation, when they do their obstacle course, they'll run through the arena, but again, it's not filling the stands with people. All of those uses, the sub-event and the full event uses, are all in the summer. Between about Jordan Education Foundation's end of April, mid-April until mid-September.
Yeah.
That's it. The rest of the time, the venue's shuttered, winterized for the season.
The reason I asked is because if we're only making improvements for the rodeo, then obviously we want the ROI to be, but if it's going to be something more than that, and we want to use it obviously more than 78 times a year, then we would have to, if it's going to cost. I imagine it's going to be, based on what Corey said, it's going to be very expensive.
Pricey.
Yeah, so.
We have, just so you two know, we have done a couple of things. We've got some new lighting over there and we have flagpoles, so a little bit has been put in.
And air conditioning.
Don't And go what?
crazy,
Conditioning.
We have,
Air conditioning up in our
Air
VIP suites, because at one
conditioning.
point, that didn't exist.
yeah, it's probably been, all of those things have occurred. We've fixed bathrooms, we've done the air conditioning, we've done flagpoles, we've changed out changing out the lights to LED lights was a big deal. We've made minor improvements to the site. We've laid down a lot of recycled asphalt and improved the unimproved parking quite a bit. We've probably put 20, if you averaged all that out, I would say over the last 8 years, we probably averaged $20,000 to $40,000 a year in
Okay.
improvements, in addition to just the standard maintenance.
So it's not like we haven't ever, we don't,
No, no,
we've
I
put a
didn't.
little bit in.
No, I didn't think that. I just wanted to understand
Yeah,
the history of
level
it
of
and, yeah,
ongoing
the level.
funds. Line item on the budget.
because
Tell me you
anything
spent 50
more
grand.
is the millions.
Yeah.
We did the non-million thing.
Yeah, that's not.
Okay, I think I have, can I just restate to summarize? The scope of the study for the consultants. First and foremost, this is a study about our rodeo arena. We want to keep it as a rodeo arena as a core use. It's okay to have other uses. In fact, we want to have as many other uses as possible, but it can't be at the expense of the rodeo. We want this to include an architectural analysis in addition to the venue analysis. We want to know the costs of scenarios for improvement, the cost of construction, possible renderings or site layouts. This can include improvements to make the rodeo arena rodeo experience better, but also, again, facility improvements to get more use out of the facility. We want the consultants to bring us creative ideas for additional uses of the facility. We want to know economic impact. We want to do an economic impact analysis, but not if it's an added cost to the study. But we are definitely interested in pro forma business analysis, cost revenue analysis of the different types of possible uses. We don't want to survey our residents separately, but we will look to add some survey questions to our annual citizen survey about the rodeo arena. However, we do want this study with consultants to include engagement with focus groups who are users of the venue currently or potential future users or stakeholders, and others with insights about the venue. So they need to build in the cost of their study, time to be here doing focus groups. Am I getting that about right? Okay.
Corey, anything else that you would think of
The
that?
only thing I would think that, and Corbin's probably got in there is, as I've called, we've met with other rodeo arenas, is the more frequent use, they do have staff. For example, Spanish Fork has 8 full-time staff just at their rodeo grounds, because they do so many events. And so I think you would wanna do that as part of the study of,
Staff,
we are
like
gonna
a,
do
need to
more-
include a staffing analysis.
yeah, but I didn't know if that was part of the whole business or not, but if you're asking to do more, I mean, that is a lot. I mean, we've got it built into our current, because we've done it this way for so long that it's already into our schedule. But if you're to start adding more and more events, what's the event staff? Cause we've even tried to find turnkey. I would love to find just a turnkey, hey, we have a facility, bring in the event, and that's been very hard to, to do.
Other
It'd be
duties
great
aside,
if you
let's
just
have
said, here's the
Patrick,
facility,
you
do
know.
everything.
I'll run the rodeo. Shoot, I'll run the Mexican rodeo, get it?
Just watch those out.
I got it.
You'll have these 200 things coming after you.
Chief Bell just volunteered to help me.
Is there anything, you've answered all my questions, what other questions do you want to throw out there? What other things do you wanna make sure are considered, or what's?
I do want to talk about the aesthetics of the park. Kind of going back to the RV question we had a few months ago, or was it weeks ago, I don't know. I am never gonna be for an RV park there, ever, but I would look into, for our rodeo, some kind of hookups for rodeo people that come in and see what that would be like. But at the same time, like I said, I don't wanna put an RV park in there, but, how can we make the transition, because we've got our arts center, we got the rodeo grounds, then we got the space in between, which right now is a parking lot and dirt. But I do know we've talked about expanding the arts center to the east, if that time ever comes. So I just wanna make sure as we're planning this rodeo, the new upgraded rodeo grounds, that we're also thinking about the rest of the complex.
It integrates.
Yeah.
It integrates, yeah, that's important.
Site plan,
What do they call
Aesthetics.
the park, what's it called, the,
park master plan,
Yeah, the
is that
park
what you're
master
asking
plan.
about?
Yeah. We had a good discussion on a couple months back, maybe a year ago.
but that was like
The months together.
that was kind of more of the round park.
Yeah,
we didn't
but
talk about
it did
the-
extend all the way over to the
I thought it didn't.
It had plans for the whole area.
Cause we also talked about taking that road, you know, behind the courthouse and taking that all the way out to 22nd,
Mhm.
so.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Gordon.
Good. Any other things
that's a
you
good
wanna
point,
make sure are
Chad.
included?
I would say if we're gonna put hookups in there for RVs for the rodeo, we'd find a way to use those when nobody else is standing around. I'm just saying.
Can I ask you,
I'm just saying I don't want an RV park.
Or
um,
an RV park.
how time sensitive is this from the council's perspective? We don't have it in the budget right now. What I have, I'm guessing you're probably in the $50,000 to $60,000 range on a study, maybe 70. Because of the architect is an added cost to the base. We don't have that in the current fiscal year budget. We're planning on building this into the FY '27 budget proposal. Do you wanna do that, or do you wanna rush it? Or do you want to, well, I would rather have a budget and put the RFP out with the budget than have an open-ended checkbook. With the RFP, I wanna say, this is the study we propose, here's the maximum we expect to spend. Give us your best price to do these things under that maximum limit.
It's a one-time expense, it's a very small piece of what we have in reserves if we needed to go there.
You might,
Yeah,
like,
so
do you,
I don't
are
think
you
we need
okay
to
if it,
delay
if you wanna do it after the new fiscal year or
I'd rather
before the
do
new
it in this
fiscal year?
fiscal
I guess
year.
that's what I'm asking.
Rather than this fiscal year, because there's always costs of, you know, when people leave and maybe,
We haven't
maybe,
replaced warrant, we got a couple
yeah.
of months of warrant salary.
and there was no snow removal this year. I mean, there was a little bit, but, you know, like, we've got funds that we budgeted towards something that aren't gonna be used, then go into the, you know, I always forget the name of the fund. It's not the overage fund. What is it?
Reserves.
Fund
Reserves.
balance.
We're okay
Fund
to do a,
balance.
but I think what we're saying is we're okay to do a budget amendment, have her bring forth a budget amendment to put.
But I'd rather do it in
Out
this
now.
fiscal year, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
The majority of you wanna do it this fiscal year? Well, Denise and I'll
Not
figure out how to
opposed.
do it, whether we can, and whether we need a budget amendment before we issue the RFP or not, but
But I
The
do
majority
like
of you want
saying,
it-
here's how much
Yeah.
we'll.
Here's the
What do we
give
have
us
in
like
council
a-
contingency?
Up to the
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
we
might
can
have
almost
it
get
all
there.
in council contingency if you
almost
don't
get there
spend
for
it
that.
for other reasons, yeah. Okay.
Heck, we haven't spent the whole thing for the whole time I've been here.
The,
Flagpoles,
okay,
of course, those weren't 60,000.
25.
any other comments on this topic?
No, I think it's gonna be good once we get things rolling, we kind of figure out what we wanna do.
Okay, that's it for me on this agenda item.
Thank you very
Thank
much. We will then move on to item 2B, which is discussion of West Jordan
2B?
Code.
Or not.
What? Oh, 2B. Title 7, Chapter 6, or 7.6, which is near as cool as 6.7.
6-7.
Yep, we're gonna go on to electric bicycles.
Really? Can I tell my kids?
Council,
that?
good evening.
To ride my bicycle.
I've got the clicker. Normally when I come, I'm like, got tons of red lines, let's cut stuff out, let's just delete it. And tonight, this is a brand new chapter, so this is, no red lines, this is a complete, new addition to the code. It's not very long, so hopefully it's palatable, but, the last time we were here, was back in September, talking about, a few concerns regarding e-bikes. Specifically setting a speed limit for city paths and sidewalks. Talked about the speed limit sign down on the Jordan River Parkway Trail, incorporating state restrictions into city code. I'll discuss kind of both of these, and if you've got additional ideas or thoughts on this tonight, I'm happy to take some feedback and bring you something that maybe fits more with your wants at this time. So the speed limit that we have got was set, I think 10 miles per hour is what we discussed. Individual may not operate an electric assisted bicycle or motor assisted scooter.
Do e-bikes go that slow?
I've never seen
They
one go
barely
that
stay,
slow,
they barely stay vertical.
unless, you know. Duncan and I took some bikes over to the museum. We went very cautiously with our vests on and helmets. I don't think we exceeded 10 miles per hour.
Okay. I've never seen a person on e-bike go that slow, but that's good.
But that's what we had discussed. There was a little bit of a discussion, and the mayor had actually asked me about it. I don't know that we discussed it, but whether or not we wanted to expand the speed limit for sidewalks to traditional pedal bikes and things as well, or if it was just really a concern with the electric powered bikes.
How many of these vehicles have speedometers?
Well, traditional bicycles, unless you're tracking your watts per kilo and other stuff, generally don't have that type of high-tech things on them. But the e-bikes do. The e-bikes will give you a readout on there. But it was something that I wanted to just kind of gauge your interest on and see what the council thought about limiting all vehicles on sidewalks to kind of 10 miles per hour if it was really just an e-bike because it was artificially powered that was the concern.
One of my concerns I've seen with e-bikes, and this is mainly on 78th, is you do have the bike lane, which says on the road it's a bike lane, but I always see e-bikes still on the sidewalk, which my first concern is, people, are they gonna hit the people? But my second concern I see is always, the e-bikes just think, okay, I can just keep going when there's the intersection, and here comes a car pulling out, getting ready to turn, boom.
Yeah.
That's always been my concern, because you see these e-bikes, and usually they're just like, I don't care, I'm going.
Cars don't stop for the sidewalk.
Right, they stop for the bike lane.
Yeah.
But they don't stop for the
They
sidewalk.
stop at the curb, at the edge of the street.
Was it your son that got hit like that?
He got hit in a crosswalk,
It is
coming
tough.
off of a sidewalk,
I think
on a regular bike.
there was a time when they used to do bicycle rodeos, going back to the rodeos, I know it's a topic du jour. But they used to do bike rodeos at the schools, right, to kind of teach kids bicycle safety and stuff. I don't know if they do that or not still through the elementary schools and other things, but I think a lot of it, Councilmember Lamb, to your point, is an education thing on how to safely operate just a regular bicycle. And e-bikes are so powerful and quick as a means of transportation. It just may not be something that's fully.
Yeah, I heard of this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but I heard of someone that died on the Provo Parkway trail, just like our Jordan River, just came around a corner, boom, hit the person and one of them died. Both riding e-bikes.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you haven't ridden an e-bike before, there's a couple downstairs. They're heavy. They're actually really heavy, and
Don't stop
so
fast.
they don't stop fast. But if you're moving at 25 miles per hour, the bike carries a lot of weight with it. I mean, even at 10 or 15, you're gonna get hurt getting hit by one of those.
So Patrick,
Yeah.
right now, if a police officer sees an e-bike rolling down on a sidewalk, does enforcement happen?
We can speak with our experts here.
That's a question.
My question was, right now, if you see someone on an e-bike on a sidewalk, do you give them a ticket or something? Like, what's the enforcement like?
Depends on the classification, so if it has pedals, it's an e-bike, if it does not have pedals, it's a motorcycle.
Like, does a scooter count as a motorcycle?
No.
Okay.
If it doesn't have a scooter, it's a different
You're
classification.
talking about
okay.
the electric bikes that are like motorcycles, but they're not
Like
motorcycles.
Brahms
So
or
if
whatever?
they don't have pedals, they're considered a motorcycle.
Okay,
They're still e-bikes, like the Surround.
They just look like a motorcycle.
But they don't have pedals. So there are different classifications and different penalties for
okay.
each.
Okay, so enforcement is happening now to this.
We try to enforce it. I will say the majority of people will run from us because they are much
And they're
quicker and
zippy.
lighter and faster than
Yeah.
the truck through neighborhoods and yards, those kind of things. So weighing public safety to the cost of catching somebody, I think we have to weigh that. But yes, we have done a lot of stops and education. A lot of them just don't know.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
Okay.
So you've read this?
No,
Yes.
I have not.
Well, then I can't ask you what you think of it.
What becomes
Well,
the
this-
hardest part for you though
this is
in
what it is now,
enforcing?
so.
I mean, you said that pedal non-pedal thing, is that like instantly you've gotta
Is in our
look for that
packet.
right away?
Yeah, you have to be aware of what you're stopping, because again,
Right.
if it has pedals, it's not against any code,
Right.
so.
Councilperson Whitelock, I think I can maybe, I have familiarized myself with
Okay.
it.
Great.
I can probably give you some perspective. From the police standpoint, what we would like to see is on the state side of things, what Sergeant Hutchins was talking about is the state has gotten pretty aggressive in regulating the e-bikes, the different types, the classifications, and how fast they can go and what they can do and things like that. Where there is I guess, an opening or an area where we have concerns, exactly what Patrick's bringing up, and that is these things on sidewalks and things like that. And, you know, the state, being the state and how they operate, I mean, they're gonna ebb and flow, and they're gonna continuously be tweaking their legislation and that as technologies
Well,
change
you
and
can't
things like
get
that.
that 1,000 bills a session if you
No,
don't
no,
keep
you
tweaking.
cannot. But what we haven't seen them regulating is exactly what we're talking about here. And that's what we are hoping, depending on how you folks choose to act, is will give us the ability to, regardless of what classification it is and things like that, if it's on a sidewalk and creating a hazard, give us an avenue to address it. Because as it's currently constituted, it's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, and do you know what I should have done? I should have gone through my slides. These guys just took all my slides from me.
Sorry.
That was gonna be the main question I was gonna ask, what can we do to make it easier for you to enforce?
Yeah,
So do we just not want them on sidewalks, is that, because there's so much in here that I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
How are you even gonna, okay, kid, how old are you? 12,
Yeah.
20, how are you? Show me your ID, I don't have it,
I'm gonna write you a ticket.
it's like,
What's your name? Johnny?
let me maybe answer some questions real
Johnny
quick
Smith.
through the slides, because some of those are state, that's in the state, right? The state sets those age limits. I don't recommend that we adopt provisions from the e-bike statute into our city code. I think it's a bad idea. The state's always tweaking it. They're gonna tweak it next year, they'll tweak it the year after that, and then it just requires that we do these constant updates, and it's confusing. Takes up a lot of your time, and it just, we've already adopted these provisions in other parts in our code. Specifically, Title VII, Chapter 1, Section 4 of our existing code, we've already adopted. We've got some changes that are coming back to you regarding traffic and stuff here in a few weeks. E-bikes are covered under that. So we've already essentially adopted these sections. To further restate them, I think would be duplicative and a waste and confusing. This is the spot that Chief Bell's talking about though, right? Is that the state specifically says that a local authority may adopt an ordinance or rule to restrict the use of electric assisted bicycle on a sidewalk, path, or trail within the jurisdiction of the local authority. So this is the authority and the scope that the state has said, we can go ahead and regulate these. Do we want to put a limit on speed? Do we want to prohibit them altogether? How do we want to do that? The condition that the state puts upon us is that we consider trail access by persons dealing with mobility issues and how, you know, an electric assisted bicycle might provide access to a trail system. I don't know that we have a lot of those. I mean, out on the west end, I know we're developing a trail system. Off the top of my head, I don't recall if they're usable with bicycles or not, or if it's just hiking out there. But these are definitely considerations that we want to be aware of and discuss. And so the recommendations I think that we're looking at are, you know, eliminating the draft that you've got in your packet was brought to you based on the prior conversation. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but I'm a council pleaser. If you tell me to put it, I'll bring it. I don't like it. I don't think you should do it. don't repeat state code in city code, especially where we've already adopted it, especially where it's changing every single year.
Agreed.
I do think we should incorporate specific restrictions for city sidewalks, paths, etc. Right? Let's put some restrictions on those if you'd like to, specifically with speed limits for sidewalks and just to make sure nobody complains. There's our moving animation for the night.
How fast was that?
6 seconds. I
And how old
timed
was the
it. Yeah. Less than 10 miles per hour given the distance of the screen.
How old was the guy?
That was an adult, full-grown adult.
Okay,
Yeah. We didn't have a helmet on though.
I noticed.
Did he have ID?
Sergeant Hutchins tracked him down, heading northbound.
Near
And then
road.
I think there's definitely this need though for continued public awareness, right?
Yeah.
The state, as Chief Bella said, they've adopted so many restrictions on these machines. They've adopted age restrictions, they've adopted, type and output restrictions. We don't need to get into their mess, right? But they've allowed the city to discuss what happens on our sidewalks and trails and paths. So kind of the question is, how or if you want to kind of undertake that question. So
It seems like what I heard is they'd like them to not be on sidewalks.
Yeah.
And that seems logical, especially in our city where almost every road now has a bike lane.
Yeah.
Seems like if it's an electric bike, they belong on the street.
So we're looking at that line that says speed limit for sidewalks and saying no e-bikes in the sidewalks. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
I think so.
Me too.
Because otherwise, how do you really know? Like, that lady sitting on her porch watching that kid go by, if she doesn't like him, he's going 20 miles an hour.
Mm.
If he's her friend's best friend's son, he's only going 5. Because you can't tell. People can't tell
We need to
how
hand out
fast
radar guns to
vehicles are
everybody who
going.
complains.
There you go.
So I just
There you
think it's arbitrary. It's like, okay, we set 10 miles, okay, and somebody calls the police. They're going 20 miles an hour down this street. And they get there and the police officer's like, well, number 1, I can't see him. Number 2, if I chase after this kid, it could end up really bad. So it just seems like something hard to enforce.
yeah, one of the things that's in your packet is on the draft code is just kind of a catch-all. It's paragraph B of 762. Just that you're not to operate an e-bike in a negligent manner or a way that creates undue risk to pedestrians or interferes with pedestrian traffic. If you're saying no e-bikes on sidewalks, I could understand that. We can make some tweaks and changes. I think one of the questions though is what do we do with the Jordan River path and some of these other trails? There's some concern of the e-bikes kind of bombing along the trail down there. It's not a technical sidewalk. Do we want to limit speed or just put a general cautionary provision in there that you're not to operate reckless or negligently and whatever the officer that is there deems that to be? I think it was maybe even Sergeant Hutchings a while ago that had said oftentimes law enforcement will get called out after the fact and they'll catch the next guy, right? And so it's gonna be hard either way, but at least just trying to create an environment that promotes safety and safe operation of the vehicles.
I guess the other reason I struggle with the speed limit for them is if that's my mode of transportation to get to work and I choose to get an e-bike and use it on paths like the Jordan River to go downtown, and then you tell me that I have to go at 10 miles an hour, I no longer have the desire to be a good steward. I'm just gonna get my car and go, cause I can't do that at 10. So I think asking them and having something that they can be held accountable with not being reckless and stuff, but I don't care if you're on the Jordan River and you're going 20 on your e-bike, as long as you're not running over people. If that's getting you from A to B.
This goes to another thing in our code though, is that we call trails and sidewalks different things when they're not always different things. Like a developer will come in and say, we put a trail along that street, and I go there and it's a sidewalk that happens to be 8 feet wide instead of 6 feet wide or 4 feet wide. So,
That's true.
It's you know, if we're gonna say a multi-use path, if we're gonna differentiate between a sidewalk, a multi-use path, and a trail, then we need to tighten down our definitions on trail, multi-use path, and sidewalk. And make sure that they're easily distinguishable one from another from another.
Sure. What would you like that distinction to be, or the council, is there a spot where you would be okay with them and a spot, I mean, it sounds like sidewalks, like concrete sidewalks in residential areas, no e-bikes. Is there a spot that, or a usage where you say, you know, Jordan River Parkway, I hear that, you know, sounds like that one's okay for e-bikes. Are there any other distinctions that the council would like to draw on where they're acceptable and maybe where they're not?
They're okay in the bike lanes.
Yeah, well, on the west side, there's a lot of multi-use paths. The Hayden Peak Path, Barney's Creek Path. There's a couple others out there. There's one along U-111. Well, partially along U-111. There's the ones in my neighborhood. Some of them they would work on and some of them they wouldn't. So I think there just comes to the point where you start writing laws and it starts to get stupid. Like, how's this ever gonna be enforced? I mean, to enforce speed out on the roads, they have to sit and watch and radar gun and, you know, all the things. I don't see that happening on bikes, on bike paths. And if that's all our police have time to do, boy, I got some citizens who will disagree. They never come when I call. It's because you called about something dumb. You know. So do we keep writing, we keep saying, well, you shouldn't be able to do this and you should be able to do that, or do we say, you know, if you injure somebody, you're gonna be liable, and just kind of leave it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably a middle ground that's the right answer.
So from an enforcement standpoint, and what Patrick was talking about with the, you know, that section where they're talking about the manner in which the vehicle is being operated, that would be, I mean, for instance, on the state side of things, we have similar laws, right? Disorderly conduct, you know, you can't behave in a violent and tumultuous manner that's causing affront and alarm to people. If you're asked to stop and you refuse, we can take law enforcement action. I view that section as kind of like the disorderly conduct of bike
Riding a bike,
safety.
yep.
And if someone's being a problem, we can address it. I mean, because again, we want to deal with it at the lowest level possible anyway. And hey, please don't do that, Johnny. And then Johnny's doing it again the next day, we can take some enforcement action. And I think, you know, that's probably what the thought was in putting that in there, so.
Yeah, well, and another thing to consider too is, like was brought up, when do you differentiate a pedal bike from an electric bike? Because if I'm allowed on my road bike to ride down a sidewalk, but again, the electric bike's not allowed to ride down a sidewalk, I can go just as fast as he can. I pass guys on electric bikes all the time on my bike.
brag.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
humble
just-
brag.
I'm just
There's a
saying.
humble brag.
Watts per kilo, I hear you.
I'm just saying,
I-
so.
I
On the
think,
north side of
Paul?
town and see
I
a
bet
bald guy on a
Paul
bike.
passes more people than I
It's
do.
Well, that's where the disorderly
I know Josh
conduct
does.
comes in.
I think
That's reckless.
Just kidding.
there's the, I mean,
Reckless and
the
dangerous.
weight of the vehicle, or, you know, the bike itself is the main thing, right? These are heavy.
How much does an electric bike weigh though? cause let me tell you, this is not as much of a deal
Yeah.
as you think it is. Cause Josh on a road bike and me on a road bike is Josh on an electric bike.
Well, there's some downstairs, they're heavy to move.
Yeah, they're probably 40, 50 pounds, right?
They're, the mass is
Are they more than that? 60,
more than-
60, 70 pounds?
more than the carbon
Bigger than a
fiber
normal
road bikes.
I have to Google now.
I guess the general idea though is if the council's interested in exercising
40 to 80
The-
pounds.
parameters that the state has allowed, or if we're maybe not, I think it's completely up to the council. And again, the last discussion back in September was, yes, let's adopt, what the state has got, to a degree, and let's place a speed limit. If the council's direction is to go a different way, that's fine. I do think that for law enforcement, what I'm hearing is that it would be beneficial to have some clear prohibitions so that they can make some enforcement, for the residents that are seeing as an issue.
When people can go as fast as you, Zach, on your bicycle, I think that you typically are not on a regular
Well,
sidewalk.
I'm usually on the road,
Yeah,
but I
so
could be on a sidewalk.
you could, but people that are going fast
I
on their
go very
bikes, I
fast.
see on the
Yeah.
on the roads. I don't see them on the sidewalks, but I see people on electric bikes on the sidewalks. And I think it's because of they don't feel as comfortable, right? Clearly, if you're going really fast on your
I go a lot
bike,
slower on the sidewalk,
you're competent.
if I'm ever on the
Rider.
sidewalk, yeah.
So I feel like those that are on e-bikes,
That's a good
the
point,
reason they're
yeah.
on the sidewalk
That's
is
true.
because
You
they're
can
not
go
real comfortable.
And it makes
fast
it makes a non-competent
while
rider
being-
just as
Yes,
fast.
exactly.
It's true.
So for me, I think if we just say they can't be on the sidewalks, that
a
gives
valid
something that's
point.
enforceable and easy to determine for the
Agree
most
with
part.
Carrie.
That's a valid point.
Not on sidewalks, operating safely, not in a negligent manner. Don't endanger pedestrians or other traffic. Otherwise, we're good to leave the state sections with the state code. We've already adopted and incorporated. Okay. Any other concerns or thoughts on this one?
Quick question, Patrick. How is the use of helmets regulated? Is that regulated by the state code? It's mandatory or?
Yeah, the state will, are you talking about with bicycles in general or with e-bikes?
With e-bikes and scooters and?
I think it depends on the age. I think the different age groups have to use safety gear, and the different age groups have to be monitored depending on how they're operating and what they're operating, by a parent or guardian or somebody of a
Or where,
suitable
if
age.
you're on a highway, you have to, if you're not.
It depends, yeah. It used to be really, I will say, it used to be really clear cut. The state kind of made some changes this year that I think,
About helmets.
well, about age groups, machines, like the classifications, they kind of, they kind of made it a little more complex.
I got some data that I think would be interesting to share with the council. In 2024, the Utah State Department of Public Safety, for West Jordan alone, we had an average of 80 accidents involving a motorcycle, a pedestrian, and a bicycle. From those 80 accidents, 50% are bike and pedestrian, and for that 50%, 20 of them are bike related. That includes bike, scooters, e-bikes, and e-scooters. The national average is 14 accidents per 100,000 residents, so we're below that threshold, but slowly climbing up. The states with the lowest number of accidents nationwide have regulation for the mandatory use of helmets. Contacted Primary Children's Hospital, and according to them, 57% of the children under 15 years old that go to the emergency room after being involved in some kind of a bicycle accident were not using a helmet, and they were in critical condition. So maybe it's hard to regulate how these vehicles are being used, how to monitor the speed, but we could probably improve the safety of the rider by making the use of helmet mandatory. A couple of things that we were in the transition of doing is a public outreach campaign, reaching out to the Jordan School District, sharing this information with all the principals so they can distribute that to parents. It's the best way to inform parents about the risk of riding an e-bike and e-scooter. Also, public education include a flyer with the monthly bill showing this data that is concerning. 6 out of 10 kids were injured in accidents going to the ER because they were not using a helmet. And then we're planning to stamp a legend on all the crosswalks. I saw in some other cities where the pedestrian accidents are lower. It's just a legend that shows the word look, L-O-O-K, black background, white letters with arrows in both directions that tells the pedestrian look in both directions before you go across. Something as simple as like that can create a huge impact on awareness. And we'll keep researching on how to lower this number of accidents. Because every time I hear a child is being hit in West Jordan, my heart stops. I know that kid is doing fine. And so, the council have any question for me? And we'll keep researching and reporting to the council and the mayor.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I like when it has actionable things you can do, like
Yeah.
the look on the ground. I've seen that in like Salt Lake City does that, right?
Right.
We know that not wearing a helmet is worse than wearing a helmet. Right? Common sense, obviously, and there's statistics to back it up. Where the decision is how much of that do you legislate versus how much of that do you just say, people be smart, right? How much of that do you educate, maybe? Maybe the discussion, or part of the discussion ought to be, what funds do we set aside to do a public education on helmets, on riding safety, on whatever? Salt Lake City used to partner with UTA, they haven't done it in a few years, but they used to do a bike, it's like a bike fair. They'd have a couple of the bike shops come down, they'd have like demo riders do the freestyle things on their BMX where they can stand on one wheel and hop around and jump on fence posts and do all the cool things that they do. And they'd have nonprofits or whoever subsidizes helmets giving away or selling helmets for really cheap, little safety kits, people giving away reflector bands and stuff, all the little things, you know, and they'd have the police department would be there and set up a little bike safety course, you know, with cones and, you know, teach kids what to do and what not to do. Maybe we want to do something like that. Maybe expand that to e-bikes. And maybe we lead out on this. Yeah, maybe this is something the state should be doing, but in the absence of that, maybe we lead out on that.
What team in West Jordan City would be in charge of that kind of education?
Staff.
Well,
Yeah.
so I know that the PD, because I've still got some of it, the PD had put out some informational materials last year regarding e-bikes and the electric motorcycles and kind of the difference. I know that there's been some social media posts and things that they've put out regarding, you know, just kind of education for the public regarding these different machines and things. So my guess is that would continue. I know we've got a few bike riders in the room, and so maybe they can volunteer to do some social media, you know, reels or something.
Mayor left.
People who might see them.
Lot of spandex in the room, we could, you know, figure out how to incorporate
It's
something.
called a mammal.
I
Middle-aged man in lycra.
But yeah, there may be a need for increased funding. I don't know. It is, I know it's a topic of concern. So it is budget season. You may see PD or somebody come to you with a line item that says, bike safety awareness and
Yeah.
so that may be something that will come.
Events,
To answer to the question a little further, as far as which entities, it would be threefold. It would be events, it would be communications, it would be the police department.
Communication stuff, yeah.
events, meetings.
That's all I had for you. It sounds like it, but if I could just get a thumbs up, are there 4 that are in favor of no e-bikes on sidewalks at all? And then the no operation of e-bikes in a negligent or hazardous manner to traffic or other pedestrians? Are there 4 that would support that coming back?
Sure.
All right. I'll bring that back for a business meeting in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That as well.
We're going to move on to item 2C now. This is a discussion on proposed amendments to council policies and procedural rules. And with that, we have got Mr. Anderson.
Sorry to mess up your slides.
Thank you, council. Just to give the new members a little background, council policies and procedures, also known as council rules, have been around for many, many years in various forms. The 2 prior policy analysts have refined those. We kind of rewrote, converted what we had adopted originally and put it into a different format. Then Mr. Hallmark put them into the current form that you see, where each rule is its own number, so that we can just go through and touch on rules. So that's kind of the background of how council rules operates. Council rules are something that the body agrees to adhere to for the smooth operation of the meeting. It ties in with Robert's rules. It can be modified a little bit. So how this came about is every week as a staff, the 3 of us met and we had staff meeting for about an hour, and we do different kinds of training. It could be on code, it can be on council rules. Typically the code we're in is in administration, Title I, with department heads, advice and consent, all those kind of things. So as we discussed, we thought there were a few things that we probably ought to clarify because they were confusing to the 3 of us, or we thought there's probably a better way to explain this. So Rule 4.1 is the attendance of members. And in item C, the question was, shall is kind of direct, but then right after it we say attempt, shall attempt. And last year or the year before, we had a couple situations where a council member had notified us just a couple hours before the meeting, and we weren't really set up for that. We really need to have some advance to make sure that we can function and you can participate. And we are required that if you're participating remotely, the body or the people in the public meeting have to hear you, and we have to hear your votes and those kind of things. So all it is the removal of 2 words, attempt to, and it's just the council member shall provide advance notice at least 24 hours prior to the meeting to the council chair, whoever that may be at that particular time, and to me, or somebody in the council office, so that we can prepare for an electronic meeting. We can be set up appropriately for that. I know Councilmember Harris was out of town, but still participate electronically, but we knew enough in advance that we could get her prepared to successfully participate in the meeting, if that makes sense. So I just want to remove attempt to, and please just let us know at least a day in advance so that we can get you all squared away.
The only thing though is shall provide advance notice at least 24 hours. Does that mean if something comes up the day of, my kid gets sick, I have to be at home, I can't now participate electronically because I'm not giving you 24-hour notice? Because that's shall is shall.
That's
gonna
probably
be my
why
question.
attempt was in there.
Yeah, so
How I would answer that question
You know.
is if there was something that's last minute, maybe a child is sick or something like that, there's no requirement that you have to participate electronically, is what I would say. It is okay, like
it's
council
okay to
members.
miss the meeting.
Yeah.
Right, it's okay to miss a meeting. Councilmember Shelton is traveling. And it's probably prudent that he's not participating in a meeting, whether it's even on AirPods or in his car, while he's driving, so he's not distracted. And it's okay to miss a meeting. I know years ago when I was on the council, I missed meetings. We weren't doing electronic back in those days, but I missed some meetings because I was doing Pinewood Derby, or I was doing
We're
a
still lighting them with
family-
gas lamps.
Yeah.
Yeah, still lighting gas lamps back then.
But if it turns out that we would like to go, are you saying that we're precluded from?
I don't think this, I mean, I'll save it for Patrick, but I don't think this precludes you. It's just providing advance notice. Just know that if it's less than 24 hours, that
It might not be
it
possible.
might not be possible.
Cool, I wanted to make sure there was something,
That might be the
that was.
caveat to put in there somehow.
Well, and I can, if you're okay, I can change the wording a little bit
Massage.
and give it to each of you how to massage it. It's
Just
just,
be understood, but yeah, that was
Yeah.
my thing, that if I somehow, turns out I can't be there, I just broke my leg and I'm in the hospital,
Right.
but want to attend, cause I know there's a vote that was important and my vote might be important in that, I would want to think I could still do the job I was elected to do.
Yeah.
So maybe just when feasible, when foreseeable, when, I don't know what the right word is.
scheduled versus unscheduled.
Yeah,
How about
something like
instead of shall, just put will provide,
that. It's the,
then it's not,
it's the same legally speaking.
it's
I
not
think I can-
legally
I
quite
think I
as
can
strong.
use the two words scheduled and unscheduled. So if you're going out of town and it's scheduled and you let us know 24 hours in advance, we have it taken care of. If it's unscheduled, a sickness, a traveling, something like that, that's kind of unplanned, maybe planned and
There's a
unplanned.
word that is used in like HR circles that, you know, for people who call in sick to work or whatever, when possible, when not, you know, or they have a separate line that says in an emergency, X, Y, or Z could happen.
Yeah.
There's a way to do it, but HR might be the way to
But it sounds,
figure it
it
out.
sounds like that everybody's on board with kind of tweaking this, but allowing for this planned, unplanned, or scheduled, unscheduled, adding language for that. Is that
More the emergencies.
the emergency?
Emergency thing, yeah.
Okay. Are we good with that one?
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Okay, the next rule is item 5 in the same one, attendance of members. Several months ago, the council changed Title 1-6 when we did the chair, vice chair, and we missed this one. The rotation is if the chair is not present, then the vice chair. If the vice chair is not, then it's the past chair. And if the past chair is not, then the 4 remaining pick somebody.
Fight it out, yeah.
F is that one.
Hunger Games.
So this one is just making it all conclusive that we follow the same order. So
Okay.
and this basically means if the presiding officer is not in the room, is participating remotely, and the quorum is at the anchor location, then the presiding officer has to be defined in code where it will be the vice chair or the past chair, or you pick somebody. The presiding officer can't chair remotely.
Makes sense, yeah, we
does make
we actually did that.
Unless we have COVID again, and maybe it will change.
Okay, this one
What?
came up
That'll
in
COVID.
January. We talked about this and we thought, as a staff, this would be good to bring. So the law, and Patrick can back me up on this, hopefully, or Josh can, but the law is that if you are the presiding officer, the council chair, you sign all the ordinances of the paperwork. Well, we had an incident in January where the council chair recused himself. And we started sending stuff to sign, and the attorneys were like, oh, he recused himself, he cannot sign,
I would have
actually.
not signed it anyway, I would have told you.
Yeah, you would have told us, but this just clarifies that if the chair, the person who is the chair recuses themselves from an action on the agenda item, then we have to send that to the vice chair or the past chair to sign that specific one. It's just clarity, but it is a legal requirement. Any questions on that one? Everybody support it?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, 6.2, the transition phase. I'm not totally sold on item 6, but we can talk about it. Typically, in December, before the new council-elect take office, and Councilmember Wignall, Councilmember Harris, you participated in this. We met in this room, and we went over kind of council member-elect training, what Robert's rules are, council rules, seating arrangements, what your roles and powers are. I would like to have, maybe beneficial to have up to three current council members that also can participate in that, just so that we're bringing everybody together. If it's in December, which we do, and we have three current council members, it's not a public meeting. I don't know that I want it to be a public meeting. I'm happy to record it. So I'd like to suggest that one change.
Sorry, the change is that current council members.
Current council, adding current to that, because you're in the transition. So you've got some people that are leaving that are in a transition off the council. You've got new people in.
That'd be helpful.
The second one is just simplifying it. Instead of drafting a council member's biography, every election could potentially have no change, one change, or many changes. And so just make it plural. Council member biographies, we get that so we can put them on the website and get those things taken care of. Any questions or concerns with these small edits? Okay. Also, in the transition phase, I want to just clarify that not only when you turn the computer in, they do need to be re-imaged, and the emails are deactivated for the council members that are going off the council. And the emails, of course, as you know, the email system would be deactivated, so you can't receive or send emails, but they are archived for grandma purposes. They will stay archived forever. Any questions on that particular one? The last one that I wanted to ask about is H, no longer eligible to participate in council travel. I wanted to add the word conferences in there because there is potential where you're traveling with, you might have something up at ULCT that you're eligible for reimbursement, mileage reimbursement, things like that. We already have, I thought I did, I don't have that in there. So anyway, I just want to specify that it can't participate in council travel for conferences, which would be ULCT. That was a really bad example on my part. But there might be meetings like the Association of Councils, Chamber West, things like that, where you're the member of it, but you're the member until you're off the council.
This isn't phrased very well though,
No, it's not.
because it says you gotta return all this stuff, including no longer be able, that's not something I can return.
Which one?
Prior to noon on the day of the oath of office ceremony, deliver any city-owned equipment to the council director, including official city identification, and no longer be able to participate. That should be
An
an item two.
Okay,
item by
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
Your
Each is
parallel
now
structure
II.
flaw.
Nope, you're right. That needs to be a II.
So it just needs a
Okay.
shift tab.
So what's the timing on the not be able to travel for conferences? Is it,
From the council transition phase in council rules is defined as from the time of the board of canvass. So when the council sets the election results. So the board of canvass, which is usually towards the end of November, until the oath of office.
I just wanna make sure we don't do something, when I was at large and I lost, it felt like that month and a half where I was no longer going to be on the council, I felt like a castaway. So I wanna make sure that we're not doing that again. Make sure that every council member knows, even though they might have 3 or 4 weeks left, that up until the day it's done, they are still a council person and they can do anything a council person does.
Yep, we did that this year.
Okay.
So that's why it is worded already in the rule that prior to noon on the day of the oath of office, state law is that you're a council member until 11:59 a.m. on the day, the first Monday of January. This is the oath of office. We happen to do the oath of office, I think, we do it on Monday. So it worked. But we might, the oath of office could be on Tuesday, but anyway. Yeah, so this is the outgoing shall prior to noon on the oath of office deliver any city-owned equipment to the council director. So the desire and the intent is that you are a council member until that day. You shouldn't be, you get all the emails, you're still part of council, all
Right.
of the list that we use to communicate to all of you. We actually don't add the council members elect, we add them separately because they're not technically council members in December. So if you look back in your email, you'll see that it was council all, and then we added Councilmember Harris and Councilmember Wignall until they became council member, then we changed it with IT. Because I do, that is a concern, I don't want anybody to feel like they are a lame duck.
The only lame duck thing is you can't go to a conference.
Yeah. you just-
But there's not really any conferences between,
Yeah.
I mean, there may be
Well-
someday, so it's good to have it in there.
Yeah, the only one that it is that I think this impacts is the National League.
They
Oh,
do
is that in
something at the,
November?
they do something between the end of November and
Yeah, they did it the week before Thanksgiving this year,
National League.
so.
Took forever to adopt the DH and now this.
Any
But
questions?
Do you guys feel that way, like, the last 2 weeks that, it's our last 2 weeks, we shouldn't be allowed to go to conference?
Last 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Well, it's like paying for the
I-
professional development of somebody who's
Yeah, I
resigned.
think that that's reasonable.
Is it? I mean, you're basically saying, get out of here, dude.
No, but they're saying it's not doing that, it's up until this would include up until oath of office day.
No, this is saying,
Yeah, it's
Except
just
for the
talking
This is saying
about the
that-
conferences.
this is saying your last 3 or 4 weeks, you can't go to a conference because you're a lame duck.
I thought it was saying up until oath of office. After oath of office, you can't go. You couldn't go to
This is
one.
between the Board of Canvas and oath of office.
Well, I think this is
Okay.
actually, yeah, this is really the council transition phase, because what the council had felt before was, you are kind of lame duck, and should you be going to ULCT for the registration when you're not gonna be on the conference, not the ULC, but that's an example. You're going to a professional development conference, but you're leaving.
We're still on the council.
I'm of the same mindset that Zach is, and I mean, it's nothing against the person leaving, it's that if you resign, I know that you're not resigning, but for lack of a better term, I'll say resigning from a job. And it wouldn't make sense for the company you're leaving to pay for you to go to a conference that when you're leaving.
I've got like 3, I think.
You're looking for a thumbs up for this.
Well, this, I already know I gotta
If you make it
Make
a
it
2, I'm
aye,
okay with it,
Yeah.
make it a 2, yeah, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
because I agree that if you're no longer going to be serving in an entity, like when I served on state PTA, if the following year I wasn't going to be serving on state PTA, why should I get invited to things that are preparing me for the next year? I
'Cause you're-
shouldn't and
you're-
I didn't.
Because you're still an elected official and you have that right.
Well, you have the right to go, just the city's not gonna pay for it.
Would it be,
Be an
well, to
unwise-
kind of find cause I can see where, Chad's going. Would it be amenable to put something in there that, make it a positive?
Sorry, you lost, you can't go.
No,
That's what that feels like. And maybe I'm doing it for personal
Well, I've
experience.
won and lost, and I understand how you feel,
Yeah, but you were still
but
on the council, you didn't lose your council seat.
Let me ask this
I
question,
lost
Ellen.
my school board seat, so I know how you felt when that occurred. But I still feel the way I feel. I feel like I don't think the residents should be paying for us to go to a conference for training for the job that we're no longer gonna be doing.
So to put it this way, if you win and the Board of Canvas has happened, are you able to go to a conference before you get to oath of office?
Technically, no.
Well, you wouldn't be I don't know that you would
You're
fit
not
the
an
definition of an
outgoing
outgoing
council member at that
No,
point.
but that's a valid point.
It is a valid,
If you
very
have a
valid.
4-year term and you're not eligible for certain things at the end of your 4-year term, should you be eligible at that council transition phase on the
Saying, where does
other
that
end?
4-year term start to go?
That's actually,
when you were
No, that's a really good,
that's a really good point.
But
So
it
why don't I-
reads outgoing if you've been
Well,
reelected,
this
you're not
does, but
outgoing.
No,
Bob's,
she's talking about
Bob's just
new.
bringing up the flip side of that policy implication as well, then you've got
So under,
incoming
under
council
this,
members,
these
when you
two
have
couldn't go to a
outgoing council
conference
members.
after the board until they were.
In
Incoming
between.
council
Signed
members
in.
shouldn't
I-
have their tickets paid for a conference before their oath of office.
so what if we did something like this? This is something that I think would work, is,
But
If
it'd
it's
be good,
Chad, he can go, how about that?
but it'd be good
Can you
because
put that in
these
the
two could get training before they go on because they are elected.
Right?
It's just the opposite of what you're telling me, I can't go because I'm leaving,
But they
so they
can't
could,
come,
they could come on because they're coming on.
yeah,
so what if we
that would
re-
make sense. If we say the outgoing guy can't go, then we should say the incoming person can
Could
go.
go, that's the point I'm making.
That would make sense.
I mean, I can't speak for future newly elected members, but I wouldn't feel good about that.
Yeah, before the oath of office, I don't think we need to be.
But why not? You're coming on, get trained
Yeah,
before.
well, we're not, but we haven't been sworn in yet, so the city should be.
You have
for
been
us.
sworn at.
so what if I
Yes, that
reword
we have been.
Yes.
the H that's really an II?
Yes.
What if I reworded that whole sentence that outgoing council members and incoming council members are able to attend conferences with a vote of a consensus of the body?
Yes, that works.
Sure.
That way, if we don't like Chad, we can say no, you can't go.
And that's my point. That's my point. So I will not name the council member, but there were a few
Well,
issues
good, yep.
my last 6 weeks where I was just like, I'm still on the council. And somebody that's in here, the person's not on anymore.
Yeah.
It's,
I
and that,
recognize
it
that.
really was that way, and I didn't like it, because even though I lost, I was still on, I was 6 weeks to go, and that council member just acted like, well, you lost, you're off, you're done.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
so I
not
don't
great.
want that to happen again.
Yeah,
I can tell you, and with Mr. Bennett in the room, that I had a chance to have this a month early, and
Exactly.
people didn't like me, so they said, no, we'd rather have Gimpy guy
And
over
they
there.
had- And they had a vote
Yeah.
that really,
Right.
People are just partial to the bald head, man. I just, I'm saying.
Yes. So anyway, it opened up a weird thing, and so I'm,
Oh,
you know,
that's-
the main thing you would think, no, the person shouldn't have it. But if you were elected for 4 years and your term starts then, seems like you should have whatever's there. I think this is something that'll rarely come up. I do like that the vote is there in that way, and I wouldn't make it a secret vote. I would make it something that's public, and if someone wants to really be a jerk, then they can be a jerk to your face.
Okay, yeah, it would,
You don't have to word it like that.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly
I'd like
how
to
you
see
should.
that though.
Gonna be a jerk, be a jerk.
so I'll tweak
Patrick
that,
can probably,
Yeah.
I'll tweak that and let you, or can I move on?
you can
Yes.
move on.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
So removal of agenda items, that's rule 9.3. As you know, agenda items are considered by the council chair and council leadership for addition or removal to any council meeting, as long as we have time to post the revised agenda. We do have a council rule that agenda items need to be published within 2 weeks, or we have to have the packet material 2 weeks before the meeting so that we can notice public hearing meetings. It just helps us be efficient with our time. So I just put that if it's within 2 weeks prior to the meeting, we really need to get leadership's permission on that. If it's beyond that, then we can kind of manage that, for timing and things like that. So that's the within the 2 weeks. And then just for consistency on I and II, we have council chair up in I, and then the Roman, what do you call that? Romalet 2?
Sure.
Is that what it is? What's it called?
Romanet 1 and 2.
What's that?
I think it's Romanet 1.
Romanet 1 and 2. I just got rid of presiding officer and called it council chair. And so if a council member sponsors the item, the removal is approved by the council chair with council leadership, or any 4 council members can pull it. A staff member, it's just the council chair or 4 council members.
Well, third row.
Any question, what's that?
I'm just dying to know what the third one says, or just let me hang it.
What's the or mean?
I'll have to look, there's no change, but it's, I think it's by an applicant.
Okay.
An applicant who generated the item, removal of the item must be approved by the council chair after consultation with council leadership and must be before public hearing notices have been sent.
She has that memorized.
Yeah, once a,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Just off the top of her head.
once a public hearing notice has been sent out to the public, the council's made it very clear to us that we're gonna hold the public hearing. So we've had, in the past, we've had an applicant, after we've noticed the public hearing, have said, I wanna pull my item, and it was very awkward because we'd mail stuff out to residents.
Right.
Oh.
So once we mail a public hearing notice, it is on the agenda. It's like dried cement, it's on the agenda. Okay, so Appendix C, this is one thing that we put together when City Hall was being remodeled, because we felt as a staff that there were things that were pretty consistent that we could put into a process. So this is just how items appear on an agenda. So the simple workflow does not require it to come to a committee of the whole. So we wanted to have some examples of that. What kind of agenda items? Well, anything the council can take action on, which are consent business or public hearings. The sponsor can be staff, admin, or legal. On the assessments, it's common knowledge of the parties, minimal debate. So you all would know kind of what we're talking about. You've got some understanding of it. We have interlocal agreements, grants like CDBG, code amendments, and I've specified that as small sections of code, kind of like what we just did with council rules where we're doing some small adjustments. I've added fee waivers and service in lieu of fees that would go through the simple workflow, and I removed renewing grants because we get interlocal agreements and they're pretty much a set agreement between the city and a provider that's using the easements, city easements. And then possible motions, approve and deny, you can still have all the power to continue it to a future date, move it to an unspecified date. You want to send it to a committee of the whole, you still have all of those powers on the simple workflow. The center one is the typical workflow. This is generally everything that we do comes to a committee of the whole before it goes for action to the council. There's no change on that. It's the same thing, consent, business item, public hearing. Any two council members can bring something up through a workflow, through the typical workflow. It needs deliberation of the council or input from the council. It's going to include most land use, which we're doing. Code amendments, where it's multiple sections or a chapter of code. MDAs, MDPs need to come at least to one committee of the whole. Rezones, land map amendments, and you need executive staff time more than 60 minutes or a direction to spend money. You need to have the deliberation, the discussion, the same outcomes. You can approve, deny, you can continue to talk about it. There's no prohibition to going back to a committee of the whole for further discussion, which we've done like with Southwest Quadrant. You can make a council subcommittee, you can refer it to council staff. The complex workflow takes one or more committee of the whole, like we're doing with the Southwest Quadrant. Consent, business item, public hearing, any two council members. It's a technical discussion. You're gonna have deliberation or input, but it's not common knowledge. For example, the budget. When the annual budget comes up in May, you're gonna be multiple work sessions because it's a complex discussion and not common knowledge. I did add annual budget to that column just because that's where it fits and it will be multiple committee of the whole. So just these small changes on the item workflow, and this is what the staff and the council office use to determine what needs to come to a work session and what needs to just go to a council meeting, and we plan accordingly.
Cool.
And that should be everything that I have on.
I remember when that slide was notes on a whiteboard.
It's on a whiteboard, we've converted it over, and it actually has been very helpful as you've seen how the work sessions have grown up. And our council meetings usually are just a couple hours. We get the work done and have plenty of time for discussion so that things are well thought out. And so those are the small suggestions I've made, proposed to you. If there's other ones that we need to discuss, we can do that. Just give me the rules. We can kind of not have to do the whole book now. We can just do the rules that need change or adds.
You feel good with what you got from us in response to?
I do. I need to work on the wording on that one. And I think what I'll do is just, I'll change it so that you can go to conferences if you're incoming or you're outgoing, just with consent of the body.
I like that. All right then. All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
And now our headliner.
Grand finale.
We're gonna talk about item 2D, which is post-legislative session overview. And with that, Mr. Adam Gardner.
Thank you. We were tracking about 150 bills this session. And not a record, but the actual number of bills that were proposed were about 1,100. So it's getting crazier. It's by far by like 150 bills, the most they've ever had. So a lot of things were coming up at the last minute. A lot of things were getting shoved into other bills. So by the end, we were tracking. There was about 38 that we were tracking that passed, and most of those we're okay with. I was just going to talk about the bills that passed, but I actually think we worked harder on the bills that failed to get them to fail. So we were very happy about that. So I want to talk about some of those. Some things of note, HB 68, and I'll send this around. I got to make it look prettier to the council after this meeting. But HB 68 by Representative Cal Roberts, it's housing amendments. This is what completely restructures the way the housing is done on the state level. It gets rid of the CHA, the Commission on Housing Affordability. That's gone. And I believe Representative Roberts was the chair of that, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it takes housing dollars from DWS, which is where that's kind of been housed. Mayor's not even here. It also changes some things on the governance structure, because right now, when you have a question, when a city has a question on housing, who do we talk to? Is it Steve Waldrop, who's kind of the governor's housing advisor? Do we talk to DWS because that's where the money is? Do we talk to GoEd because that's where they handle like the tax increment for projects? So where do you actually go? And so they've decided to kind of tighten that up. They have moved it all under GoEd. So Steve Waldrop will have a small staff in GoEd with DWS dollars, but he is in GoEd, but not under the GoEd director. Like he still reports directly to the governor, but that's just where it's housed. Anyway, I think a pretty good change. There's always a lot of skepticism when you take something very highly regulated, like in DWS, it's regulated by state and feds, and then you move it to GoEd, which has very little oversight. What happens there? I'm pretty confident they have this worked out. We're excited, I think, about the changes, and Steve Waldrop has been, the governor's office has been really good at listening to us and some of our needs. There was a data center water transparency bill that passed. This is HB 76. The complaints that are being heard up on the Hill come from residents and online groups and conspiracy groups about data centers that are coming in using all of this water. We have no water. That was how it was in the past. They used a lot of water. That was a problem. So data centers had to figure out how to make that change. I think they did, but right now, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't use as much water, but they use a heck of a lot of power to cool all these things. So, but the concerns are still out there that there's this big water issue. And so the state is asking, anytime you want to do any sort of incentive with a data center or bring a data center in, the state wants to be more involved, and there's some reporting that goes along with that around how much water usage there is, kind of a repository. From my understanding, West Jordan is already doing what they're asking us to do, so we're okay, but that's kind of now been codified. There's a bill that Representative Tusher passed on government form submission. just kind of standardize things. We're doing a lot of those things as well because we're awesome. So we don't need the state to tell us what to do. We're doing it already. County formation amendments that we talked about before the session, we got to a pretty good place to where the arguments against the bill still looked like it was this threat from Southwest Valley that would want to do this split. But the way that they changed the numbers from, they moved it to a third of the population of the county, there was actually now an interesting worry that Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, and Mill Creek in West Valley would split and kind of create their own thing and leave everyone else holding back. So it got kind of this interesting, really interesting discussion. Salt Lake County they got it to an area where they were okay with it, they could live with it. And there was no opposition from the county, but when it got to the Senate, the bill died. So we're not sad about that.
Good for me, but not for thee.
Yeah, a little bit.
We want to split, but not you.
Representative Karen Peterson got HB 236 passed, Truth in Taxation Amendments. This was actually a pretty good bill. She got it to a really good place. What this is saying is that that the council has to make some sort of statement that that we could be considering a tax increase, that we're looking at it. It doesn't require that you have a number, but we also the date is you have to do it on or after May 1st, but before June 30th. You have to make that statement. So there should be plenty of time to discuss that. There was a kind of a competing bill by another Representative Peterson, Tom Peterson from Brigham City. He had a similar bill, but he wanted an actual statement saying we are going to do it with an approximate amount, and he wanted that to be April 1st, which would have been, I believe, impossible for the council to meet that deadline. So luckily, cooler heads prevailed. Representative Peterson got some other ancillary things from his bill into this bill, but we ended up being okay with it. The league ended up being okay with it, and we'll see how this goes. This was backlash from the public that was saying we feel like when we go to a truth and taxation meeting at the city that they've already made up their minds, and then the city's response is, well, we've been talking about this in budget meetings for months. Where have you been? They saw there needed to be a way to change how we communicate with constituents, and this could be the way to do that.
I just want to say she's not here, but huge kudos to Denise, who is very involved with the league and with meeting with representatives that got this to a good place.
Denise was a rock star. I called her just for therapy and other things, so she could tell me what was good, what worked, what didn't. Super helpful throughout the entire session. Amendments to election law. This is your favorite bill. There was a couple of bills sponsored by Representative Jefferson Burton, and some of those bills would have made elections in West Jordan very expensive. The aim, I believe, was to get rid of vote by mail. So you would still be mailed a ballot, but you couldn't return it without two people manning a box, a drop box. And we have to have one for, I think, every 10,000 people. And so how many employees do you have to hire for how many days, or 10,000 voters? So anyway, the bill would have been very expensive. It also dealt with every few years you'd have to go in and prove your citizenship. And so this was a House leadership priority. By the time it got to the Senate, one of the bills, the egregious one, it died. And the actual Senate sponsor is the one that made the motion to kill it in committee, which was interesting to watch. And the other bill was just changed into a study. Let's do a study done by UVU, their Politics Institute, and they'll provide some data to the legislature later on. We were really concerned in West Jordan about license plate reader amendments. HB 327 by Representative Chevrier out of Utah County. It seems like the legislature is always saying, hey, there's an increase in crime, you need to do something about crime. And then at the other hand is trying to take away those tools from law enforcement to actually do what they're asking us to do. There was a lot of issues with this. It didn't even make it over to the Senate. It was held in committee, it was not considered. They moved on. They couldn't make the bill work. There was also another bill sponsored by Senator Dan McKay from Riverton that would have not allowed any unmarked police vehicles to perform any traffic duties, make any traffic stops, etc. That was really problematic too because for a number of reasons, but one we brought up. You're telling me that if an unmarked vehicle or a detective is looking for a robbery suspect, they are not allowed to pull someone with the same make and model of that car, or what if they're heading to what if there's an accident? There was a lot of problems with that bill. We reached out, worked with the sheriff's association, and that bill ended up dying as well, which is good.
Got pulled over by another vehicle. I don't expect
He
you to do that, it's
says
a
he did, but anyway. There was another bill that we were really concerned about that said if you sent out, it's called Local Building Authority Amendments by Representative Oxier, that said if you go out to the voters to approve any type of infrastructure project, a water tank, a rec center, anything else, and the voters reject it, you cannot finance that any other way. The building would be dead. You can't use a GO bond, you can't use whatever. That bill thankfully died as well. We have talked for the last couple of years about transportation fee. Right now, cities are allowed to charge a transportation fee. The reason it kept dying is because very large nonprofit or religious groups would have to pay that fee. They did not want to. That includes hospitals and churches and everything else. So they've had this battle for years. The House really wanted to pass it. The Senate did not. So fourth time is the charm. That bill was actually passed this year. It brings in a bunch of other different fees into this. What types of police fees you can charge. You cannot charge broadband fees except for under these circumstances. And so they kind of cleared up this code here. So it does allow a transportation fee in this, and it sets forth how the councils, how the cities are allowed to do that. HB 492 is one of the, this will really affect West Jordan. Also sponsored by Representative Cal Roberts, Transportation, Infrastructure, and Housing Amendments. I'm gonna combine it with, this actually isn't the biggest deal. I wanna combine it with HB 507. Also by Representative Cal Roberts. Between these bills, it moves funding over from the 5th of the 5th and the quarter of the quarter to the 5th of the 5th is just transportation fund. It's mostly transportation funding. There's a lot of reasons why we like some of this transportation funding. For instance, before Mountain View corridor, before the intersections and the overpasses can be constructed, we need to have a 5600 by state code, 5600 bus line running through it. So what this bill does is actually take a lot of the 5th of the 5th money that has been promised to transit, and it moves it over to the County of the First Class Highway Fund, which in the past has been a little bit of a slush fund. That the legislature then takes. So instead of being like a local option, it's now local option collected, but the state gets to decide how that money is spent. They've done that for the last few years. And I think there's somewhere in the realm of like $30 million that goes into that fund. And it also allows now 5th of the 5th money up to $5 million to be spent on revitalizing how do they put it? Revitalizing a convention center owned by the county within a city of the first class. So that applies to the Salt Palace, that applies to the Mountain America Expo Center, but it's not talking about the Mountain America Expo Center. I believe it's talking about Salt Palace. What it also did in HB 507 was we've talked about this in the past too, got rid of HTRZs, got rid of the FIZ, gets rid of all of these tools that cities can use and kind of creates one. And what this is gonna be kind of it's gonna be really interesting to see how this works. Because right now, with the passage of this bill, cities can actually apply to the state to get their buy-in on some sort of tax increment financing, like a CRA, on a CRA. And so now the city or the state is bought in to our economic development project. And it has to be a regionally significant project. So it could be a data center, it could be a huge housing project, it could be, there's lots of things. This area here, it could be an amusement park, it could be this revitalization here. What this means is now a developer doesn't go and work with the city to get their buy-in, and then the county, and then the school district. The city is the one that makes the application to the state, and everyone else has to come along once the state approves it. On real property, there's also not there's not a lot of negotiating amounts anymore. It's set now in code that for real property it's at 60%, and for personal property it's at 80%.
That's the amount of the tax incentive you can give.
Mm-hmm.
Is it up to that, or it is that?
It could be up to that, but I think it just is that. I'd have to go back.
So taxing entity committees and.
So like we would negotiate with the state on, if the state wants buy-in and they want part of the tax increment, we would negotiate with the state on what that amount would be. But like, we don't negotiate,
We don't
I
get
don't think
together
the
with the
school
school
board-
boards and
that's
the
correct.
county and everybody else.
that is correct. So I would imagine that your traditional CRA process, it will not be used very much anymore. So again, that gets rid of HTRZs, FIZ, HOPSI, MSEVZ, I don't even know what that stands for anymore. So it gets rid of all of these and just creates one path. You still have the traditional CRA. You can still do that. The county is allowed, just the county is allowed to say that this project is not regionally significant. So the county can say that. They are still included, but now instead of 60%, they only have to contribute 30% of just their portion. Okay? Did I miss anything on that?
So Adam, did
School
they,
districts can't opt,
School districts can't opt out, they have no,
with HOPZ going away, that was the only deed restriction tool that we had. They didn't replace it
you
with
still
anything.
have deed restriction tools, yes.
Okay,
Mhm. And in fact, in this,
HB 492.
in fact, no, in HB 492, yeah. That's what they want you to do. The legislature is encouraging deed restrictions in a couple of different ways. In this bill, they have committed $100 million, some of this from the 5th of the 5th, and some they want UDOT to go bond for, which they are planning to do. So it's opened up $100 million for infrastructure projects that have some sort of affordable or attainable housing component to them. That fits a lot of what we're trying to do, but it also kind of gives, in my opinion, I don't know how wrong I am yet, but in my opinion, it finally gives cities some leverage that if we're applying to the state for some of this money, part of that is we're gonna need affordable and attainable housing, and you can deed restrict some of these properties. So you will have that tool. The developers will understand that you have to do that because they are all tracking this money very, very closely. This is how West Jordan will be getting infrastructure money over the next year, hopefully. We're gonna make applications for chunks of this $100 million for projects that we really need, for roads, sewer, and water. So that will be happening. We just met with West Jordan's other lobbyist, Lincoln Shirts, to kind of game plan this whole system out. He's been really instrumental in crafting solutions under HB 492. So we feel pretty confident. In this. Any other questions on that? SB 97 was tax revenue amendments. This is one we were really concerned about as well. It lowered what we're able to have in our fund balance. It's the bill that also said that we could not have any property tax money in any of our capital funds to save up to build the fire station. Anyway, we negotiated with Senator McKay a lot. It went through multiple iterations, I think 4 the last time I looked, and the bill died at the end. So we held a funeral for it and everything. It was awesome. I assume he's going to be bringing something like that back again. He loves playing with the property tax system, not necessarily to get something passed, but I think this is a good way for him. He sees this as a good way for him to see how it works. So what cities are doing. So he knows that when he proposes something, multiple cities like ours, like we did, we call them and, hey, we got some issues with this. What are you doing? And he likes to find out what cities are doing and what they're, so he can decide what changes to make and what to study during the interim. SB 130 was sponsored by Senator Fillmore, and the floor sponsor was Representative Acton. This is river restoration amendments. What this did is appropriated $2 million to be available for Jordan River projects. So you want to put a boat ramp in, you want to maintain trails. This is money that we can apply for to use. We can use it for.
We could maybe not have an area by 7800 that's always underwater. We could use money for that.
We technically, yes, could. And we got to talk more about that in a separate meeting. But yeah, money would be available for that. The biggest issue I think we're going to have to do is work with UDOT and figure out a real solution for that. We need to do that. Transportation governance amendments. This is Senator Harper, SB 197. This completely changed the makeup of UTA. So they no longer have a 3-member board of trustees. Those are gone. So that will phase out July 1st, and it will be a completely different board with 7 members. 2 appointed by the speaker, 2 appointed by the president, the rest are appointed by the governor. Those that are appointed by the governor, like Salt Lake COG, would be able to nominate 1 or several people, and the governor would have to choose from whatever list he's provided. No elected officials are eligible to serve on that board. That was a sticking point at the end with the league, with counties, but that's the way they stuck. So right now, our representative on the board is Carlton. He represents Carlton Christensen represents Salt Lake County, but they are all leaving, and
They were divided up like that. I just thought it was 3 people.
yeah, they're divided up.
Beth is-
Weber Davis, Salt Lake County, Tooele, Utah County have their own. So they're gonna be gone. That'll change. Jay Fox, who's the current executive director, he will be the boss. He's gonna run the show now, which that has not been the case.
To the governance of the 7 people on the board.
That's correct. Luckily, he just signed his contract extension before it took place.
Just in the nick of time.
The last bill that I would say we really fought hard against, and Josh was a big part of this too, was tort amendments. We were really worried about this tort reform bill that we're coming through that could really negatively impact West Jordan City, all cities, and every business ever. But we were really nervous about it. It got circled the last week. There was talk that it was gonna pass at the last minute, so everyone was kind of scrambling, but that bill never ended up getting encircled. It died. That is the session in a nutshell. A lot of the things that we wanted to died. A lot of the things that we wanted to pass that were really good passed, and some of the things, some of the bills that passed, we were able to get some things that we could live with. But I think West Jordan did really well this session, and if we can get some of this funding, then we'll be doing even better. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay, well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to you and the rest of the staff that worked on these things. All right, we're gonna be, no administrative items. As a reminder, next week on the 31st, we'll be meeting at 6 o'clock. This will be in regards to the Southwest Quadrant, us really trying to get things set. I am going to, and I don't know how much time we're going to give them yet till I see what they're going to do, but the developers have asked for a little bit of time so that they can tell us what they've got in mind for the industrial part, because I keep hitting that they keep talking about the residential part.
Southwest Quadrant?
Yeah, and I'd like to have them report more on some of their thoughts and intentions are with that. So they are putting together a little demonstration on that. The idea I'm hoping with that meeting is we'll start with that and then really have them go to the corner while we discuss with the us and the city staff. They'll be there if we need to answer questions, but I will be letting them know that, you know, they're not to interject or things. They've had their time to talk, so. But be ready with questions for city staff. And I think the idea we wanna do is really have us define what we're looking there and try to, say, not really put the line in the sand, but really let them know this is where we're not going to move on. There is a thing that is a lot of acreage. They're not going to walk away from it. So we need to make sure that we give them their walking room of what they can do inside. If you have any questions about that, before we get to that meeting, if you have now, you can, or if not, you can talk to me before if you've got thoughts of how, you think we can make that little meeting better, since this is a special meeting that'll just be about one topic, that we can have that discussion.
Took me about 5 minutes to write a clean, or was it high-tech energy, what do I call it? High-tech manufacturing,
Definition?
yeah,
Okay.
like use table. Took me about 5 minutes with some AI help and
Some
AI.
That was going to be my
Yeah.
question, as someone in staff bringing some
I
definitions of
emailed
what
it
high
to,
tech is.
who did I email it to? Who was sitting by me last meeting? It was,
Taylor?
what's that?
Is it Taylor? I haven't seen anything.
It wasn't Taylor, it was. I keep thinking it's Greg, but it wasn't Greg. I don't know.
Jim?
Oh, it was Duncan.
Oh, Duncan.
Duncan. I was next to Duncan.
That will be something we'll need to
I just showed it to him. He goes, email it to me. So I did. Okay.
Mr. Lee, you want to?
I just wanted to make sure Scott and Paul were engaging in the conversation about what you wanted. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm not looking at you, I'm looking
Yeah,
at
I'm like,
Scott.
geez, I
and Paul.
see you. Man, we're gonna have to date after
I just wanna
this.
make sure that as staff, next week, we're ready. We wanna hear, your questions, but we also, as staff, we have a lot of questions for you.
Right.
We wanna make sure that, it's like we did with the rodeo arena, council, what do you want? What are you as a body wanting to see in this industrial area? What are you comfortable with the residential uses, the residential densities, residential acreages, the ratios, the locations? And so I wanna make sure next week we'll have time for staff to pose those questions to you.
Very much, it's something I'd like to see have happen, so. This is really good a meeting where, like I said, I think we want the definitions of what we want, so Zach, once that gets around, maybe that'll come to us before the meeting.
Do we come Southwest themed?
boobs.
You know, I will leave that up to individual members
The
of
only
council.
Southwest related gear I have is Western Stampede shirts and a
That'll
cowboy.
work, that'll
You
work,
can wear your Southwest Airlines stuff.
cute, yeah, that'll work.
All right, then,
You're getting
unless
it,
there's
you're getting
anything,
it.